We're going live, and we're okay.
Niggas call them gun. Wow, why is it always so cold in March? What they manipulating the weather? Cause the Air Force retired heart. And they just experimental stick. And now you got that Turkey, Syria earthquake. Right where Obama wanted to put his pipeline. Nothing ever happening. Cause he toppled everybody in the Arab Spring. Yeah, he toppled everybody but Syria. And now we're seeing the consequences of that. Since HARP is retired, they are making earthquakes with new weapon systems. Or HARP with different names. Yeah, it's all the same. Oh yeah, they're trying to force some.
You turned everything I turned like told you to a song lyric.
I think I kept asking you to specify.
Why is it always so cold in March? What they manipulating the weather? Cause the Air Force retired HARP. And they dishing out experimental stick. And now you got that Syria earthquake. Right where Obama wanted to put his pipeline. Nothing ever happening. Cause he toppled everybody in the Arab Spring. Yeah, he toppled everybody but Syria. And now we're seeing the consequences of that. Since HARP is retired, they are making earthquakes with new weapon systems. Or HARP with different names. Yeah, it's all the same. Oh yeah, they're trying to force some bank loans into our.
That feels pretty real, dude. That feels pretty real. Actually, I would listen to that all the time. I like it.
I want to sea walk to that. You got to send me a link.
For sure. Yeah. We're going to start doing more of that. I'm just going to start recording Gunwoo.
Bringing back intellectual rap.
I feel like everyone wants to hear that. Well, how you been? It's good. It's been a few minutes since we were last here.
You should take like the transcripts of some of the insights that he says, like on the rants, and then put that into the song so it is intellectual rap.
Well, that was literally just like the last 10 minutes. I just took what he said. I just wrote it down.
Oh, that's what you did. Brilliant. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, we didn't even get to the IMF part. It's pretty good. I like it. But yeah, you guys were like Gunwoo, you're like, let's do a show. And I was like, he never says that.
He's like, you got to be on a certain frequency too. Like that was pretty rare. It's like an angel coming down that's like, I will speak to you now. Initiating the knowledge. Everyone's like, does Gunwoo have a show? Does he have a channel? He's brilliant. Where do I find him? I want to hear more.
Going wow. That's what they say.
Thanks, I guess. I don't know how to respond to this.
We're big fans. We're big fans.
You.
Should we jump on to gut fauna? We could just go to gut fauna and see how you feel after you're done like dealing with your blush. That's all right.
Aww.
There's a reason they're called gut feelings. You know what I mean? So French-Canadian Alexis Saint-Martin was shot in the stomach while at a fur trading post while someone's musket accidentally fired at close range. He survived, but his injuries resulted in a hole in his stomach wall that provided an early window, literally, into how our emotions and mental health affect the gut. Through careful experiment, surgeon William Belmont discovered that St. Martin's mental state had direct psychological consequences on his stomach's activity. When he felt irritable, for example, his digestion slowed. Somehow, his emotional states were manifest in specific local biology of his gut. Most people have experienced these gut consequences of their emotional feelings. Nerves before an exam might lead you to feel nauseous or even vomit. Profound sadness might make you lose appetite or perhaps cause a hunger impossible to satiate. Gut symptoms are common in mental health conditions, from appetite changing to depression, debilitating. Well, yeah, okay, but what about the psychic part?
I'm glad this is the topic for today, because ever since you told me about the Nagasaki stuff, I've been looking into that. So the miso soup connection with how it prevents radiation, poisoning, and cancer and all that. Ever since then, I've been looking deep into this stuff and found out that lactobacilli specifically. Andreas mentioned this in his stream that he showed me. But he talks about lactobacilli. I went a bit further into it and we realized this man named Ivan Bogdanov created his own strain, essentially, from studying the blue zones in the Chernobyl incident. So there's a place called the Blue Zone, and during Chernobyl, it was a zone within the epicenter of the radiation zone, which in this specific area, people were not getting cancer, they were not getting sick, but they were all just drinking like this fermented like homemade like probiotic drink. I think Russians call it kompot or whatever, some variations of that. And then he looked into that and then made his own strain
And
called
they live,
lactobacillus.
and they live longer too.
They live longer. Yeah.
So like the Lactobacillus salivarius, like it combats Candida.
Mhm.
Like it is amazing. Like, 70% of our immune system is in our gut, and it produces its own antibiotics that targets against invading like pathogenic bacteria. So it inhibits Candida, it reduces cavities, it reduces gingivitis, it helps prevent strep throat, it reduces mastitis and colitis, IBS, and it also produces like lactic acid. The acidity helps fight the bad bacteria, but people live longer. And Candida, the overgrowth of Candida, is the root of a lot of health problems.
Yes. I'm so glad you bring it up. It's okay. The thing is, the Candida part's big because this ties back to all the people throughout history that have supposedly found the cure to cancer, right? Like from Dr. Tullio Simoncini to Stanislaw Brzezinski, from Max Gerson, they all the proposed cures to cancer that have been it's essentially empirically reported throughout history all have to do with either high alkalinity or reducing Candida, but they both tie together.
Like that Italian guy, I think you might have just mentioned his
Yeah,
name.
Tullio
He was
Simoncini.
saying that cancer is the Candida.
Yeah, it's fungus. Yes, cancer is a fungus. That was his breakthrough research, finding out that like the Candida is what albicans, the white Candida specifically, is the precursor to like all cancers. But the thing is, if another level to that, there's a lot of people, especially within Andreas' audience, that have reached out to me about this whole parasite stuff. Fungus being the parasite. The amount of money that world corporations benefit off the symptoms of Candida infection, from cosmetic to health to whatever, whether it be,
because a lot of the times women, like people will go and they'll buy all these beauty products thinking that's going to help their skin when it's literally like residing in their gut. It's residing in their gut and it's nutritional.
They're only curing the outward symptoms rather than the core issue itself, perpetuating this money cycle of having to rebuy the same product. Which is why everything's on a subscription-based service is right now. Stuff like that.
And you see like the temptation of like sugar everywhere, and it feeds the Candida, it feeds the parasites, and the gut. The sugar causes inflammation in the gut, and a more inflamed gut, it throws off your mental clarity, and you're strengthening the bad guys and the parasites.
Not only that, during the Obama era, when Michelle Obama was doing the whole Play 360, whatever, people need to exercise more. The whole movement of replacing sugar to sugar-free artificial sweeteners. Recent science have found out that like artificial sweeteners are actually more detrimental to your gut, and it also promotes Candida growth more than what sugar itself can do. So like
like it was saying like xylitol, if a dog has it, like they could die.
right. So like you got sucralose, you got aspartame, potassium, you got aspartame specifically. They promote Candida growth. They're more sweeter. They're more detrimental to your pancreas because they're more sweeter. It also promotes insulin production.
But this is why I recommend monk fruit, because I feel like it doesn't happen with monk fruit. And monk fruit is so much fun to bake with. It's the same ratio as sugar, and it tastes so much like it. It's profound. I mean, it's expensive, but well worth it. All the other ones taste like garbage anyways.
I'm still looking into stevia because I know that's an actual healthy alternative, but I'm not too sure. But like I want to address this because like the world at large is under the impression that artificial sweeteners, the zero sugar stuff is actually more healthier, but yet people are getting more obese from it. Like why? Or having like pancreatic issues, because of aspartame, potassium, aspartame, and stuff like that being more sweeter than sugar itself. I believe they're 100 times more sweeter. It overworks your pancreas in terms of insulin production. To compensate for how sweet it is, because insulin production is entirely dependent on taste. So if your mouth detects something sweet, it automatically insulin comes out. So and like this is very evident in diabetic patients. My
And
mom's
it promotes aging too. That insulin spike, it makes
right,
in your skin,
right.
and you suffer.
It's all in part. They all calculated this. They want people to die sooner because they want it's all about the productivity and growth. All these corporations and business, especially ever since the ESG score came out, they have to if they go public. If a certain corporation goes public, they have to meet these expectations and quotas every quarterly. They keep chasing that green line. So in order for that to happen, humans need to be disposable, or everything needs to be a subscription based. And that's essentially the path we're growing towards. And yeah, it all ties to the how much money Candida itself generates in terms of the cancer industry, the cosmetic, the food, everything.
And then once you see it, though, you're like, oh my gosh, this is perpetuating all of this. Like I would
Right.
always say, sugar is the devil's number one soldier. Like for real. Like I know it's an extreme metaphor, but like seriously.
Yeah, this goes all the way back to the sugar trade during the British Empire, the Dutch East Indies companies, the creation of Haiti, and all that stuff. It goes all the way back, which is why we're still on this conspiracy about ancient bloodlines tying to today and whatever. And all
But another thing too is the nutritional DNA analysis based on your genetic markers, like things you'd be sensitive to. Like a lot of Asians are more than likely to have a lactose intolerance, and Holland has a lot of cows. Like it's how it relates to the genetic, and so that have you heard of that genetic testing, of finding out what you should eat?
The world at large, so from personal research, I hate to break the paradigm and all, but like it just from personal research, I've been finding out that people equivocate intelligence and diet tolerance to genetics, but I'm finding out more so it's largely it's all based on cultural diet. We think it's genetic because of the racial component association with cultural diet, but it's all dependent on your gut microbiome. But the world at large used to ferment their food. Also had iodine access, but due to the resets and like all the wars and whatnot, and climate changing, quote unquote, the lack of iodine access and gut microbiome has generationally over time made people either lactose intolerant or whatever. It's an interchanging thing. It's not genetic. Sure, I guess to some extent you can be genetically primed because epigenetics are a thing, but it's more so what your current microbiome state is. Like if you grew up as a kid eating like yeast-based food, you're going to be eventually lactose intolerant. But Asians, like the ones that are more modernized, let's say like Koreans and Japanese or Singaporeans, they are lactose intolerant like by the time they're 40. But you see with Mongols, they still drink goat milk and whatever. Like they still eat cheese on the large it's really so yeah, like I said, there's no genetic component to it. It's more so
It's interesting too. A lot of people say they can't, like they're celiac or they can't have gluten, when really what they're reacting to is the glyphosate that's like soaked and drenched in those things. That's why you hear so many people say, well, when I go to Italy, I can have pasta, I can have bread, and nothing happens. It's a soil component and a chemical component.
I completely reversed all my food allergies with lactobacilli. It's insane. Like this is how I realized it's not genetic. I used to be lactose intolerant. I used to be as a kid I used to eat ice cream all the time, but then I became lactose intolerant by the time I was 21.
This dairy, we're really not supposed to have it. It sends out a signal of like mayday, mayday, something's wrong. Like we're really not supposed to have that
pasteurized, and who else?
Yeah.
What did they do? What else did they do to it? Right, but then
and the mucus, it promotes mucus.
Right. I keep spitting yeah.
But so what did you take the powdered form? Like what form did you take that helped?
I just took the capsules. I just looked into whatever. I looked into Garden of Life initially, because they're the most accessible one. This is non-GMO, project verified. So sure, I trust it to some extent. I tried that, and then I just tried various different supplements and brands, see what worked and what not. No, took this a particular one called Biome, BIOHM, and then a lot of my skin problems went away. Yeah, it's everything overall. My life improved. Mood improved.
There's even certain strains that will help with depression and like in mental clarity and focus,
Mhm.
like that makes a world of a difference. And then it's about then you're kind of like biohacking of
Mhm.
like messing with the strains. But
Right.
what I've noticed is a lot of people like they'll start drinking kefir and start having, taking probiotics. But for me, I've noticed that what doesn't get handled is the whole parasite thing, because the parasites are in there and they're taking your serotonin and it's throwing off your hormones and your happiness
Right.
level. And then it's like, and when you do go to treat a lot of these parasites, like they do pleomorphism. So they'll adapt to what they're giving, and they'll put like film on them, and they'll protect themselves, and then they'll multiply. And just how parasites and parasitology and fungal pathology was taken out of the core curriculum and most med schools, or like by 1979. And so we have all these doctors that aren't educated. They
Yeah.
because it was like, oh, it's a third world nation problem. So
Right, right, or like, or a thought process too. They although all these empirical doctors or institutional doctors, they largely dismiss holistic medicine as is like voodoo stuff, right? But this is all by design, because this goes all the way back to like back in the 1890s, 1900s, when Rockefeller was taking over was taking over the school curriculums, and then setting up like the medical institutions and hospitals and whatnot.
pharmaceuticals with like petroleum based
Yeah.
medication.
To propagate his standard oil practices and whatnot. He came up with electroshock therapy to get people to shy away from actual like electrotherapy and whatnot. Because you had to think of the wave oscillator back in the day, which was huge back in the day. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So with the immigration of European cultures back in the 1900s, with the industrial boom of America, you had a lot of these homeopathic home remedies coming out from local cultures, which is why there was apothecaries everywhere. That was the norm back in this United States. The original like pharmacy was the apothecary, where people would get like a bunch of herbs and shit. And there was a huge boom in Los Angeles due to the Chinese immigrants of apothecaries, and a lot of them still like are around today. Um,
The plants have all the medicine too, like
right,
everything in
right.
nature. Like there's like whatever there is, there's always a solution in nature.
And
And
this stuff. Go ahead. Sorry.
we've just forgotten like what leaves to make, and
Right.
like to take of.
We have this materialistic attachment to where like it has to be from a brand that I trust, right? That like this it has to be considered real medicine, or else all these herbs
But
and stuff is just
a lot of these people too, like, but these kids of what they thought was that they have ADD or ADHD, but it's residing in the gut, and a lot of people think they're depressed when it's a gut, and so they get on SSRIs, and or they'll get on ADHD medication when it's a gut disorder. It's just like, dude, it's just in dysbiosis. You just need to make it
it's,
symbiotic. But knowing this information, because they don't even know. So
right. It's just
instead of getting on that pharmaceutical, getting hooked, which you talk to these people, and they were like, they end up more depressed than what they were before they got on it, because it's being completely
right.
overlooked. And then when they try to get off of these antidepressants, they're suicidal, they're having nightmares. And for me, it's like, oh my gosh, this could really help humanity if with just the knowledge of,
And
oh, the gut. I
all
need.
this stuff is laid out in MK Ultra. This is all by design. Like, but also it's also half and half too. Like, heavy metal exposure, the industrial revolution and its consequences, right?
And parasites hide in heavy metals.
Mm-hmm. They also get promoted as well, and also like it destroys all these heavy metal exposure destroys your pH, your body pH. Lot of men, like women, are more aware of the body pH stuff because of their reproductive system, right? To prevent yeast infections and whatnot. But men, on the other hand, they don't really care, or they're not even taught to be aware of their body pH because be a man or whatever. We don't really have a direct consequence to that visual that I guess characterizes itself
Mm.
physically to make it a problem.
Like, I
But
don't see it. I'm not experiencing it. So I must not
right,
have a
right, right,
problem.
right,
Hmm.
right. So like they so they get involved in these jobs, whether it be like garbage men or anything blue collar, right? And they largely ignore what they're exposed to because mama ain't raising a bitch or whatever, and they come back they come back at the end of the day alcoholics or whatever, or junkies and whatnot. They don't know why they're spiraling out like this. It's just but heavy metal has been another huge component. Largely throughout history, it's always been parasites and fungus, but this heavy metal component with the Industrial Revolution has also been, I guess, another
And
angle to all this.
zeolite helps with that, but like nobody's cleansing. Like we used to, like where everyone, like mothers in the 1930s knew that you deworm your horses, your cows, your cats, your dogs, and every fall and spring, like the kids would drink castor oil, molasses, diatomaceous earth, and wormwood.
The war
And
on
like
ivermectin.
what?
Go ahead. I said the war on ivermectin is a book that addresses all this.
And there's in ancient soil samples, like ivermectin's found.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. Wait, keep going. I wanted to bring this video that I found.
But yeah, like with addiction as well, I wish more people knew about that because a lot of the times they'll think they'll relapse and drink again or use again, not realizing that the parasites are so brilliant. Like they'll send out a signal to your brain, like demanding things and it like sugar, and or like high carb stuff where it's demanding. And so they get the signal and they think that it's them and that they have no self-control or they that it's this overwhelming, like, oh my God, I can't get rid of it. And it's like, dude, it's not coming from you. It's a signal that's being sent. And so that's why I think too of
because your
parasite
gut
cleansing.
your gut has neurons that directly attach to your brain and that signals cravings to let you know, hey, you're hungry. But these parasites, like you mentioned, are so smart. They hack into that, and they release hormones that tell you that hey, you crave yeast, which is why people fall into alcoholism or any glucose-based diet. And then, which is like, there's another esoteric level to this because the Hasidic Jews or Orthodox Jews in general believe that that yeast, the wheat flour, is the forbidden fruit in certain cases. Yeah,
Really? My father's a
yeah.
baker. This is interesting.
Yeah, because because of everything we address, essentially, they deem it as unclean, so they try to do like gluten-free bread or kosher stuff. I've only recently touched on looked into this. I don't know too much about it, but I know this is like a tangent we can go on into.
Oh yeah, the yeast, that really fascinates me.
Hold on, Jewish wheat being the forbidden fruit. Where's Andreas? He used to be here to talk
liked what Andreas was saying because I'll talk about this. Where I like he was assuming, or at least I was assuming where he was going with it was like certain psychic instincts where people will be like, I hear this spirit, or like they'll sense other thought forms of feelings or being influenced by something. That it's like, well, how many of them are? That would be an interesting study or experiment of like what's coming from the gut and what's coming from, spirits or other forces.
Yeah. So yeah,
Exactly.
Rabbi Yehuda proposed that the fruit was wheat because a baby does not know to call its mother and father until it tastes the grain. In Hebrew, the wheat is kita, which is considered to be pun on ket, meaning sin, because kemet, whatever. Yeah, this is public information. And they don't eat wheat on Passover, which is called chametz or chametz.
God, when did wheat start?
There's
Like when did
also a
wheat
good
really get
joke there
implemented?
because there's a point in the Bible where
Sumerians
they
and
have to cut
Scythians.
the wheat, and they're like, "Hey, there's weeds in the wheat. There's weeds in the sin," and then they have to cut, and they're like, "Well, wait to harvest the sin before you know what I mean? To wait to harvest the wheat." So there's a couple entendres.
But Andreas, just Google forbidden fruit.
And isn't like a scythe too that you would cut the wheat with?
Yeah. So Scythians, the reason why Indo-Europeans managed to dominate the world after the reset of the world, after Noah's flood and all, which is the whole Tartaria stuff we're talking about, is because they're called Scythian. People call it Scythian. I pronounce it Scythian because they're named after literally scythes. They were the first people to industrialize agriculture, which is how they became such a successful civilization.
The Scythians industrialized it.
Yeah, because the whole reason why we depend on hemp and marijuana and all that stuff through to make civilization is because they agriculturalized hemp and also other things, and they were the first people to use scythes. There were like the Scythians itself, the people are a mixture of all sorts of tribes and whatnot. The Tartarians, essentially, they're not a singular race. Which is why this throws off a lot of academics looking into anthropology and whatnot. A lot of white nationalists too, they're talking about Indo-European this and whatnot, not realizing there's also Preserzic admixture and all that other stuff. But yeah, what unites the Scythian people culturally was the use of the scythe and how they industrialized agriculture, which is how they formed the Sumerian Empire. People keep saying, the Sumerian Empire was the first civilization to exist. There was nothing before it, whatever. But they were somehow overnight so advanced. They had all this maths and whatever stuff, writing system. What came before that? Like all these people that united under an industry of agriculture.
And all their fertility, they're like a lot of their gods will have like agriculture, like
Ishtar and whatnot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which ties the Zoroastrianism and the ancient bloodlines of Sumerians. Yeah. Andreas, please, I need help.
What?
I'm talking about too much here.
Yeah. You wanted the forbidden fruit. I pulled it up for you. You go for it.
No. Go back to where it mentions that's wheat. Scroll down.
There you go.
You did a
as long
horrible
tradition,
job.
The fruit is commonly either identified with wheat or the grapevine.
Yeah, even Muslims like associate with this.
Well, all Semitic people.
Yehuda, the Yehuda part.
The word wheat, kitma, sin, right here, ket. This would be a pun. All in wiki.
Like this. Yeah, this is all public information. People just
member berries, the sin berries. You don't think it's a mushroom. You think it's a wheat. Okay, but mushrooms,
mushroom
fungus.
Stuff, that hippie shit. I don't like this. Yeah, there's fucking books for within American contemporaries talking about Jesus is a mushroom. Like all that stuff is just like psyops.
What grows on wheat? Like ergot. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you wait to harvest it until the end.
But
you know what I mean?
They're saying that the Christ was a fucking consciousness coming from a mushroom. That stuff is like bull. It's all that fucking.
Yeah, well, be careful when you get to Terence McKenna. But just the idea that ancient people associated mushroom Eucharist with Christ, and that they had,
there's some truth to it. I understand, but they just like the flat Earth stuff. They go off in a psyop tangent to throw people off. It's a red herring to an extent, yes. But the people need to acknowledge that Christ was a real person.
Okay, yeah, Christ wasn't a mushroom.
Yeah,
there could be a really good Mario Brothers about this though, where like Toad turns out to sacrifice himself.
Oh my gosh, I just played Super Mario Brothers 3 yesterday and it was so amazing. And I got the flute and it's like to go into another portal or whatever, you have the flute. I'm like, God, there's so much disclosure in this game.
It's huge. Dude, I mean, just the idea that Japanese people were taking star tablets and running through walls and like talking to like lizard people and rescuing girls from sewers. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, the Japanese game industry sneaks a lot of esotericism, like
the Mafia, Mario Brothers. It's like
not even that. Fucking Zelda is apparently canonically a Christian. Same thing with Captain Falcon.
Zelda has the Japanese regalia,
and like not only that,
if you look at the Imperial Regalia of Japan,
Kojima, dude. The last stream we were talking about ethnic bioweapons and all this stuff. People are thinking about like, oh, this new information is crazy.
Dude,
whatever.
Did you see this video? I just watched this video.
Hold on, stop.
Right.
The last stream we were talking about ethnic bioweapons and whatnot. And people are freaking out, especially with the RFK Jr. disclosing stuff about the biolaws in Russia and all that stuff, or in Ukraine, all that. Like this is like known, and like if anybody that is a fan of Kojima would have played Metal Gear Solid 5, which is the exact plot line of all of this. The geopolitical sphere that we're happening right now, unfolding, is literally the plot line to Metal Gear Solid. I hate referencing movies and games and stuff because it draws away.
Because video games are definitely
draws away from the credibility of the stuff we're talking about. Because I'm very left brain. I like to be empirical. Like I want to show people, hey, this stuff is public information. I like to bring out documents and whatnot, but people get sidetracked about movies, like all this other stuff. It's just like, hey, like in order for our position to be taken seriously, we need to stoop on the level of the language.
Calm down, obviously, but just really quickly, the Imperial Regalia of Japan. So it's obviously from freaking Zelda, or Zelda is got the same. This isn't exactly what it looks like either. Let me see if I can get the picture of it. Is it better? Yeah, here you go. This is the Imperial Regalia of Japan. It's this nice little jade jelly bean, this old mirror shield, and then this very not Japanese looking sword. I don't know what to say. It looks like it's the
Slavic Rus.
Maybe Final Fantasy, maybe
it's
Zelda.
Tartarian, bro. It's the Ainu
not
connection.
Japanese. We can all agree on that. Okay. Anyway, watching this guy's video, which is from the Japanalist, and he's from Japan, and he's like, well, there's not enough videos for the West from Japanese people, so I'm going to tell things about people. You guys are talking about these things. I'm going to comment on these because I know about them. Okay. So here's the Yata no Kagami, and here's the Yasakani no Magatami. Tama, and then here's the Mirror of Yata, right? And so there's a lot going on there, and they're found up in the they're found in the central south. But point is, there's a conspiracy theory here. I don't know where it is. If it's like here, he starts talking about it. Right there, boom, Israel. So all of us is like, and now so the thing is that apparently someone looked at the shield at some point and saw that on the back of the shield,
common ancestry theory. Yeah, it ties back.
It says in some sort of Proto-Arabic Israel, Hebrew letters, which translate to modern Hebrew as Ayesher Asher Ayer, which means, I am that I am, was the Lord God's name, which ties it into this thing. And so when this was found out, apparently the emperor said no one's going to be allowed to see this ever again, and that's why you can't visit it in a museum. You're not supposed to know which temple it's in.
My God, Japanese history and stuff like this is it's so hard to break into, mainly because ever since World War II.
What did he say about the sun goddess? I saw something pop up like the Matarasu.
Yeah,
they're naming that particle that they just found off of that.
Yeah, so the deal is the king can't defeat the dragon without the help of the sword from the shield from the sky goddess, right? The sky goddess comes down and gives him the shield, and that's also gives the power.
The Meiji Restoration. So you know how Japan was fractalized to different shogunates and whatever, and then and they had the Meiji Civil War, or whatever Civil War was, and then the Americans came in. Matthew Perry comes in, destroys the entire samurai class, and to propagate an American puppet emperor, which became the Meiji Restoration, all that stuff. So in order to unite Japan, they need to form a national unified identity. So which is why they go through all these hoops to hide.
Yeah, but look at this! Look at this eschatology.
I know.
Set herself in the cave.
I'm saying the point I'm trying to make is it's very hard to break into the Japanese people and to address all this stuff. Mainly because of all, you mentioned, how they hide this.
But I just wanted to say, look at the story. The story is about the sun hiding itself. We have a period of eternal darkness. Okay, all right, it's all there. I mean, if you can read between the lines, Japanese mythology is literally the closest thing you need.
Right, but but many people are especially Asians, they have a hard time breaking into the Tartaria stuff because the Asian governments as a whole, like Japan, shuts off their archives and all this stuff to protect the narrative of their national identity they formed since World War II, essentially.
I can't believe there's actually a wiki on the Japanese Jewish common ancestry.
Right.
People always ask why do you use wiki? I'm I don't know, man. Look what they keep writing. They're they don't have enough space for new articles. I can see why they have all these pages.
The Japanese people as a whole are afraid to address the fact that their emperor and the Tokugawa shogunate and whatnot. A lot of these clans have Korean ancestry, Korean whatever. They have a hard time. They have a hard time addressing the fact they have Korean links. So they try to tell them they have Arabic links, dude. Their brains will fall apart. But yeah, dude, it's
Japanese Jewish common ancestry theory is a fringe theory that appeared in the 17th century as a hypothesis which claimed that Japanese people were the main part of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. A later version portrayed them as a descendant of a tribe of Central Asian Jewish converts to Nestorian Christianity. Some versions of this theory apply to the whole population, but others only claim that a specific group within the Japanese people had descended from the Jews. Okay, so this is Japanese Mormonism. I can take it. That's cool.
But this is what gets me is most people don't even know what they are. So like you're warring over something like it. Oh my gosh, like it just
divide and conquer.
And it's like it reminds me of like the Easter eggs of you can paint all the different eggs, different colors, but when you crack it open, you're all the same on the inside. Like, especially when you guys talk about politics or invading or any of that, I'm just like, nobody knows like who and what they really are. Like, how could you, like standing with a country that wasn't even called that country not too long ago? Which
ties into another stream that I did like a few days back with Andreas. But like how I mentioned that the narrative of the Jacob, all the stuff like that we're dealing with, about Abrahamism, the clash of religions, the Jewish stuff. It all goes back to the lore of the two brothers, Esau and Jacob. And I mentioned like hey, the confusion all happened because the narrative of these two people have switched. And then this is all evident within the accounts of Nicaea. Even like the Black Israelites, they even know about this stuff. Like a lot of the Afrocentrists, the people that talk about how we're the original Israelites, yeah, they are to an extent because they're one of the tribes. Remember, there was 12 tribes, it's not just one people, But it was everybody under Jacob. But the issue with this contention of like who Israel, to whom Israel belongs to, all comes down to the death of Esau. Esau was originally supposed to be the inheritor of the tribes of Jerusalem, but then in the Babylonian, how the Christians know it is that that Jacob tricked Esau. That's how the Christians know it. That's how largely it's been accepted ever since the Nicene canon. But in the Babylonian Talmud, this is from the Tanakh. This is from like the Jewish sources themselves. The Babylonian Talmud, it says that Esau sold his birthright to Jacob because he didn't care. Like he sold it for 30 pieces of silver. His burial plot to the Temple of Jerusalem. That was so. In order to belong to the 12 tribes of Israel, you had to have a burial plot in the Temple of Jerusalem. That was your covenant with God. That was a tabernacle essentially. But Esau sold that, and then to Jacob. But then it didn't. But then people didn't know until it came down to what was it? It was one of Esau's relative. I have to look. Hold on. Let me read this back. Death of Esau.
What was Jesus known as, Andreas? Is he? Like there was stories of him.
Iosis or whatever. Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, yeah. Jesus is not, so we say
like
Yeshua.
In India and Japan. Like there was accounts that fit the description and something like is he like?
Oh yeah. So like, well, a lot of people have talked about the is it Timothy or Thomas? Timothy that goes to India. Hold on, let me see that again. India Gospel of Timothy. I think that's right. No, I think it is Thomas. So the idea that doubting Thomas went to India. Is that right? What Indian Christians? I forget if it's Timothy or Thomas. Yeah, St. Thomas. It is. I keep feeling like it should be Timothy for some reason, but it's the actual Thomas.
Too far off. I want to address. Yeah, so like apparently there's another figure on Jacob. There's two Jacobs apparently.
So the idea that Thomas went to where Jesus lived because after he put his holes in his hands is more that like he went to see like what life he lived as much as possible to understand him more, and that also brought him away from this. Christianity is kind of this weird thing where we think of what happened in Europe, but we don't think about all like Christianity at one point was a movement that was horizontal. There was no one on top of anyone for a while because after Jesus died, it was like, well, I saw him. Well, I saw him too. And like people were all saying, oh, this is like really important. We need to change the way things are working. And things changed a lot more to the East at first than they did to the West. And as things in the West started to become secular, they pushed out all of these ideas, and there's like, oh, there's no way that there are even Christians east. Like, so in 425 in Byzantine, like after Constantinople,
the Nestorian Christians and their legacy in East Asia is the reason why we even have the Mongol script itself. It's the vertical Arabic script. That's from Nestorian Christians.
But some people say Jesus would have gone by Esau. I like to think he went by Yeshua because, like, more likely he's going to go by his Aramaic name than he's going to go by his Hebrew name, because his Hebrew name is like, I mean, I go by my name, you know what I mean? So it's possible that he went by Esau instead of.
I largely disregard Hebrew, because of there's just too much stuff behind it. Because as David,
It's just unlikely that many people spoke it at all. It was basically a dead language that was kept in a temple.
Yeah, but the Lizer Ben Yehuda stuff, it just makes too much sense during the time period of what happened. Like, it's like, so I forgot the exact timeline of things, but it's the Ben Yehuda finds out, discovers Hebrew or whatever around the time of the Balfour Declaration, during this whole time of British Israelism. Then, like, on top of when biblical archaeology was the fad, empires around the world were looking for the evidences of the Bible, and like this is when they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. But like, this was all to propagate the narrative of the Nicene canon, to propagate their land claims in Israel following the Balfour Declaration. Because like this is like a whole proposal of the Jewish state time period as well. People forget there was 50 plus different proposals of a Jewish state. Like there was the Kimberley plan to proposing that, like, the original Israelites were from Australia. Like,
he looks like a Capricorn. Sorry.
All
business.
But then they eventually settled on Palestine because it was I forgot why, but but the Balfour Declaration happened. So there's too much political interference happening during the formation of the Hebrew language that, like, for me to take it seriously as an actual, like, this stuff is real. But yeah, if you want to go back to the main page, scroll down to Esau. It mentions how Esau sold on the Babylonian Talmud. I even looked into this myself. I read the Tanakh to some extent. The Babylonian Talmud, which is even accepted by certain Orthodox Jewish groups as well, to its legitimacy, even though a lot of people like to pretend it's not, it's fake. It mentions that Esau literally sold his birthright to Jacob, and then when
30 pieces of silver, 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's what I believe.
In the normal Bible account, it's that he traded it for a soup. Like any normal Christian Bible, it's in this too. It's not like just in the Babylonian Talmud. It's this idea that there's two brothers, one's older and one's younger. The older one's supposed to have a birthright, and the younger one has a different mother who wants to make sure the younger one has the birthright. She covers him in honey and fur so that he feels hairy, goes into the blind father's tent pretending to be the son, and he gets the birthright of the firstborn. And the idea that the father didn't know this, I like to think, and I've always thought since I was like 5, that the father probably knew and went along with this and used this as an out to, like, give the birthright to his favorite wife's son.
Right. I don't buy into that, because, like, I grew up with that story and all, but that's all the Nicene canon. Like, but we need to refer to an older source, which is the Babylonian Talmud.
Jacob's ladder is that Jacob, was it Jacob and Esau, right? Or is it Jacob? Mm-hmm. Who's the brother?
Jacob and Esau.
It is, right? Okay, so so Esau is the older brother, and he's like, dude, you stole my birthright. And Jacob's like, actually, remember that time that you had soup? No, I was eating soup, and you worked all day, and you said, man, I would trade my birthright for a bowl of soup like that. And I gave you the soup. So that was the trade, was that you said you said that. And so now, and that's why it happened that way. So then he's all pissed. He goes into his dad and he asks him for a blessing. And Esau's like, dude, I demand a blessing. You cannot, like, give my younger brother a blessing and not me. I demand one.
Right. The thing is, give you the same blessing. The thing is, look. If you read further into, like, at the end, so what happened was So Esau sold his birthright. He needs to bury Jacob. I believe their father or whatever.
So his dad says, all right, I bless you. Hold on, stop. By the sweat of your brow.
Let me fucking finish. So he ends up selling his shit, and then they come along with Hushim to bury this other guy named Jacob. And then he stops for a minute and then says, hey, wait, how come? Like, I forgot I sold my birthright to Jacob. Let me go get it. And then he sends whoever to go get it. But then Hushim, becoming impatient because he's old, ends up killing Jacob because he's like, oh, fuck this. Ever since then, the sons of Esau have declared war on the sons of Jacob, or the tribes of Israel, essentially. So these people are outed, and then there's one outlier, the one outlier tribe that used to be part of the tribes of Israel, but now they have been excommunicated. Ever since then, they've been declaring war. A lot of theologians, controversial theologians, like to are on the position that the lineage of Esau are Ashkenazi Jews, and they trace this with the Duke of Amalek and the Amalekites and stuff like that. But it makes sense. But the thing is, what you mentioned, like, so it's about Jacob stealing the birthright. This is their justification. You have to remember, the Masoretic Jews are the people that wrote the Nicene canon under the supervision of Constantine. Constantine being a pagan emperor that never cared for Christianity to begin with, but he has to buy into the guys for public appeasal. So he writes a new canon, essentially a new mythos, like what Hitler tried to do, what a lot of empires try to do every time whenever they try to consolidate. Whenever you consolidate an empire, you have to create a national identity, a national mythos to unite the people together, and that's what the Nicene canon was. The Council of Nicaea. He defeated the Christian world, and he has usurped it ultimately, and then he employed Masoretic Jews to write the new canon. And so this is essentially, quote unquote, what their version of propaganda is, to justify war against the tribes of Israel, to propagate the idea that Jacob, oh yeah, these people stole our shit, instead of, hey, the actual guilty party was Esau in the beginning, to selling the birthright. And you see this with Native Americans as well. They always talk about like how the Americans stole our land or whatever, but not realizing that they actually sold it for fur and other things. This is a financial game that's been around, or a trick.
Do you look at it as symbolism, or are you literal? Like, you literally
what do you mean?
Like he literally gave him 30 pieces of silver. Like, do you look at it as like
yeah,
that?
yeah, it's both, essentially, right? It's a lot of the stuff I'm seeing within like ancient esoteric lore, I see as like a metaphor of a repeating a repeating pattern of human behavior. Right. So you have I recently had this epiphany where I realized that the curse of Ham, right? So Ham, being the son of Noah, saw Noah naked, his father naked, and decided to tell his brothers, hey, whatever.
What do you think he caught him doing? Like, don't you think there's more to that story? Like, like they say he was just drunk and naked, but like,
right. I never thought about it.
I want to say though, with Exodus, there's an idea that if you kill like someone's ox, it's worth 30 pieces of silver. So there's something also about
so there's 30 pieces of silver. So like I said, it's both, right? There's 30 pieces of silver stuff comes up a lot throughout history and human behavior, symbolism, stuff like that. So it's both. Like it's like a lot of the things in contemporary history that we do today, a lot of the things we in terms of business practices and whatnot, it's all esoteric. There's like, this is why there's people like this think tank people out there talking about Kubrick and like Gnosticism and modern contemporary capitalism and stuff like that. All these people like aligning stars with what business practice or what business deal to do on what day. All of these billionaires doing it's all in the open, and all these corporate logos being sigils. It all ties back to like all these things, because we're constantly paying tribute to back these old practices and behaviors, a pattern that's somehow we're stuck in this matrix of constantly repeating, which I also find to be a theme within the samsara. Like a lot of the Buddhists talk about samsara being this repeating hell of the same cycle of repeating behaviors that you need to eventually let go of your ego to break out of. All that stuff. This is all addressed throughout like esotericism, with like everywhere, like all throughout all like
back in Syria.
You not. But I want to address about the curse of Ham. The curse of Ham that I've recently realized. So I've never thought about what he was doing, but I don't really care. But the bigger picture,
something he was doing his dad. Isn't that like everyone's story? Is that
the curse of Ham is daddy issues. The inability for a person to resolve their issues with their parents, generational trauma, stuff like that.
Yeah,
That
I
is
could think
essentially
about like how many, like the billions of people that have daddy issues
right,
alive right
right,
now.
right, right. And the like and if you look into the lineage of Ham, and it turns out to be like, the people of Canaan, which is Germanic people, white people essentially, and like who suffers the most from daddy issues, essentially white people, right? It's so funny. Like, I'm not trying to be racist or generic about this, but this is all just written out, It just, I don't know what to
I
make
feel
of
like
it. It's just
I feel like it's universal, man.
right, but it's universal, but like this public information as well, like it's all out there.
So he had daddy issues. Did they say like what? He got caught with his dad? What? What happened with Ham? His dad?
Ham said, so Ham caught his dad naked, Noah, and then decided to tell his brothers about it, gossiping essentially. And then Noah found out about it, and then and cursed Ham, saying like, you will become slaves of Japheth. Your people become slaves of Japheth. And then if you analyze all of world history and its trade wars that have happened throughout all history, this whole stuff about Tartaria, the Tartar people are essentially the sons of Japheth, right? Like they're the Asians, or the Arabs, the Semites, etc. There's multiple. I believe there's two tribes that the Ham was supposed to be underneath, but it was what Japheth was being one of them. But if you look at it throughout all of world history and the European struggle of their existence, and all the trade wars they've been involved with, from the 100 Years' Wars, the Barbary Wars, to the trade wars, to the Silk Road stuff, yeah, like they've always been fighting for economics dominance over Asia. Why? Like every European, every dark age throughout the within the Western Hemisphere, within the Anglosphere itself as well, there's always been due to Asian dominance. Like we're seeing with today with the Chinese century, like China is overtaking pretty much the entire world. So like I see this as like almost like an esoteric theme, that we were recycling throughout history, that the curse of Ham playing out economically even.
I was looking at the Great Wall of China the other day, and I was looking at it as like all the different towers on it. Like, oh, was this like a route to move opium? And that's why there's towers. It was to make sure their shipments were
Yeah.
like nobody hijacked it. I was looking at it as like a drug route. Like, this is what it was for. This is to make sure it's
it was a
safe
Silk
and
Road. It was a
there.
Silk Road, right? This was a major trade network, but they did push opium to some extent. But it was not with a major. But it became a major thing during during the British involvement. But the Great Wall of China, this is a widely known theory actually, was built to secure the Tartar trade routes. It's also, which is why you have people from the Tartar stolen history, Tartar communities analyzing the Great Wall history and their aiming ports. I forget what they were called. The holes in the wall made for crossbows and whatnot, they're facing China. If you look at all the old photos of the Great Wall of China, they're all facing towards China. So this was a Tartar construction rather than a Mongolic Tartar construction rather than a Chinese construction. But as we know about the CCP, since the Cultural Revolution, they've been constantly stealing and appropriating the history of their neighboring nations to form a national identity. Like I mentioned, every time you form an empire, you need to create a national mythos to form a national identity.
Give them something to fight for.
Which is what happened with the Cultural Revolution with Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong being one of was a Chabad puppet. The Chabad, the Hasidic Jews, placed through Bolsheviks, placed Mao in power. And they know about Tartaria. They want to erase all the Jewish history in China because it destroys the narrative of Israel, right? The whole reason why Tartaria is being covered up because it destroys Zionism. If people find out that the original Israelites were the 12 Indo-European tribes of Scythians that spread across all over the world, and that Esau sold his birthright, that all this stuff it destroys the entire current modern Israel narrative, which is why we're hiding all this. So, which is why we see the world wars and everything that happened, and British imperialism, corrupting all these Vedas and all these documents, whatnot, to hide all this. Because if people don't know about British Israelism, they're one of the biggest. Zionism started with England. Yeah, if you want to pull up British Israelism real quick.
Gunwoo, I want everything you just said in a rap for sure.
If anyone that has read any books in the 16th century under the title of Judaocentrism, that was the original word for Zionism. That became later Zionism through like the Yehuda and all those other people in the Congress. But yeah, like the British royal throne lashed onto the idea that there were the tribes of Israel or whatnot, which is why they sent all these expeditions to all throughout Asia to find the lost tribes of Israel. Because for the longest time, all these European families and kingdoms were obsessed on restoring the millennial kingdom of Jesus Christ or whatever, which is what Flamenco talks about. They were trying to find all the lost tribes, unite them together, and bring them to Israel to form the millennial kingdom again. But we didn't know. But at this time, we don't know where Israel really was. But the important thing is that throughout history, for the longest time, especially throughout the history of naval expeditions, that academics as a whole considered all these other ethnicities to be the lost tribes of Israel, going from the Native Americans to the Koreans to the Chinese to the Indians. Why? Because they were all aware at large that the Scythians were the original Israelites, and this is all written down in Latin. People just need to read Latin. Why do you think Latin is a dead language? Because they intentionally killed it off so that people don't have access to this information. The Latin was only reserved for the elite class. If anybody actually learned Latin or read through any of these documents talking about the Mongoli, Scythi people, whatever, it's in every Mercator map. If any description of any Mercator map talks about this stuff, about Genghis Khan, about the Tartars being the Israelites, the Scythians, and all this stuff. Which is why I keep harping on Korean history so much, because the Korea has the largest depository of surviving contemporary evidence that's to support all of this, because all the stuff that in Korea is so anomalous that it breaks the narrative at all.
Really? I didn't know that about Korea. Yebiseyo.
And like a lot of, like the thing is, the Korean angle to all this, they call Tartaria Hwanguk with a Hwaguk, but like the etymology breaks down to Tartaria and to also Israel. It has a dual meaning. And then they propose the borders to go all the way from Finland to Korea. Then like it's just the people largely like dismiss this as pseudo history or whatever. But like Andreas knows, we talked about this a couple of times. The Black Dragon Society in Japan, when the Japan-Korea Treaty happened in 1910, when Japan took over Korea, the Black Dragon Society, through the financing of the Yakuza, burned any books that mentioned about the Korean identity and their links to Tartaria, to the Dacians in the Caucasus Mountains, etc. And the
Black Dragon Society?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Like all this stuff is public information, but if I spew about all this stuff, I just sound like Alex Jones, you know.
Man, I feel bad because I had like a bunch of those pictures up while you're talking, but I guess I wasn't. Yeah, the Black Dragon Society is nuts, and they run PlayStation. It's pretty crazy. Like,
when did they start? Dude. When did the Black Dragon Society start?
Oh well, this is all a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
This is all a bunch of nonsense, but we'll tell you 1901. But really, like the thing about these societies, this is like most of these things are based. Yeah, they're based on like
underground, and no one knows. Yeah. Go ahead.
These are clans that go back to at least the 1600s and probably to the 9th or 12th century, depending. So one of the cool things about Japan is like every business is like 400 years old. Like you'll go work in your parents' like shop and it's like a 400-year-old shop. You know what I mean? Or like Nintendo is 200 years old and it's like a new company there. Sony is like a pretty new company. But for the most part, like Sony's reliant on older companies for manufacturing. And Nintendo has like a no Yakuza policy, which is kind of means that they have their own Yakuza at this point. They've built their own little clan.
They went
So-
legitimate. All the Zaibatsus. This is what I talked about the last stream, the Korea stream that I'm talking about. So yeah, so like the Zaibatsus, the originally, you know, the war, the corporations that initially supplied the war effort in Japan. I want to bring up the Zaibatsus real quick. So these people are what's essentially the Black Rock of East Asia. You want to pull up private chat, my guy? So yeah, I mentioned this last stream when we talked about Korea. The Zaibatsus, God, what did it say about them? They were originally
What? Seizure?
point, but then they went legitimate to, and eventually supported the war effort. This is all through the nationalist overtaking of the government and all.
So it's a weird thing. Like I keep wanting to like define better for people because when they talk
Mhm.
about like, you know, criminal organization or, you know, went legitimate, like all that really means is that you got a contract with the state. It's really weird how it's phrased, and people need to work on that because what you had is you have the Yakuza who used to have contracts with each confederated part of Japan. And as the empire arose, and yes, it did, eventually through civil war, where they killed about a half, maybe a third of the Japanese citizens who were Christian. And there's a lot of different things going on in Japan. Eventually, they got to an Edo period where this is what emerged. And there's, you know, what they call the underground, but they're not really because they were always sort of acceptable in Japan until in the 20th century with the United States and international explanations. The Yakuza were kind of on thin ice, but they were still able to emerge as like corporations, you know, and that's so it's just never been really fair to say like, oh, they're like illegitimate. Like they're functioning, they're doing what the economy requires them to do.
They cut
And
a
at this
deal.
point, yeah, well, yeah, and like so the other complication is in the 20th century, after World War II, Japan signed treaties that said they couldn't do certain military things, couldn't have certain kinds of international organizations, right, from the state. And so what they did instead was they had Yakuza, because those are people that were permitted by their government to exist. They were decriminalized, but they weren't like technically part of the government. Yeah, and so it's important to understand also international law and what the Japanese had to do to abide by really foolish policies that were set out after World War II.
But yeah, so I brought up the elites initially. I want Andreas to be here so he can help me on the history things. Because like, there's a lot of information I'm jumbling, so like it's just nice to have someone keeping track. But like to bring up elites, right? So people forget. So everyone talks about, oh, there's like 13 elite families ruling the world or whatever. But people forget that one of the families is the Yi family, right? It's the Asian family that's ruling the Illuminati stuff, whatever. The Yi, right? But the Asian Yi, the AYI, sorry. Hold on, let me bring this up as well.
I don't think you need to. All right. House of Yi. That feels good, doesn't it?
That's one of them. That's one of them. But they're connected to the Yamato as well. Here,
I feel like if I was like, Mom, Dad, help! I've been kidnapped by the house. I'm in the House of Yi. They'd just
You'll be
like,
fine.
You know,
You're in good hands.
here. Yamato people. So
dude,
yeah,
those boots. I used to dress like that when I was 6.
Click on the Yamato people link. So what about
dude?
Yeah, so
I did watch
one of the ruling families in the 13 families of Rothschild, one of them being the Rothschilds, etc., is the Yi or family. But like we pronounce it Yi in certain cases, but it's a Wa or Ya in Japan. But they trace their lineage to the Alids, which was a link earlier, right? So the etymology of the Yi, which is I found out recently, right? Ali, right? Al is an article in Arabic. Al being the, it translates to the in Arabic. And it's this article, so it becomes the E in Arabic, right? Ali, the E. and if you like consider the Tartar migrations, the Sogdians coming over and all that stuff, the language transmutations and whatever, eventually it translates to the Yi, right? So like that's where the connection like draws to. And then for the longest time, Asian anthropologists and historians, and also like within Korean lore as well, have been arguing that the East Asian people, the Koreans specifically, draw their ancestry to Sumerians, but originally the Caucasus Mountains, but they settled in Sumeria. And this is where like, people consider this pseudo history, and they completely dismiss it as a whole. But like this is complete. Like the etymology is there, the lineage is there, the genealogy is there, the culture link is there. It's crazy. And then, like I showed
minor synchronicity earlier. I was mentioning like 425 BC and some rant, you know. And anyway, this is in the Hagia Sophia, which is the Santa Sophia church that they converted into a cathedral, you know, recently. But this is one, you know what I'm talking about, the Hagia Sophia, named after the mother goddess or wisdom, and it's definitely from Star Wars. I mean, you've seen it
like
before.
Barbello's daughter.
So hyphy, so base, but it's also been turned into. Yeah.
Sorry, the amount of Persian artifacts that resides in East Asia alone is so insane to me. Though, like I pulled up like this in the last stream as well. This dagger that I brought up, we came across recently, and also not only that, like the language system, like you can get these artifacts and all this stuff like whatever, however you want, and then you bring it up to like these doctorate degree people. And they always dismiss you. Like they always have some excuse to dismiss it. But the thing that you can't excuse is genealogy and etymology, language. But people largely forget, or like, so people say like, or it is accepted in like wide academic circles that Chinese came from this like chicken scratch pictographic language or whatever. It was these are very primitive people or whatnot, and like that was the excuse that the British imperialists made to justify their conquering of China, of saying these people don't have the right to self-determination or self-governance because they're very primitive, they're not civilized, etc. That was the whole civilizing campaigns of the 1800s. But in reality, the East Asian culture and people draw their ancestry to Persians entirely. If you look at every depiction of Persians in the Quran or any Middle Eastern source of Persians, they all look East Asians. They have jet black hair, they have that Chinese mustache, and all that other stuff. And not only that, if you look at the Tartarian links, the current Asian clothing that we all know as like the Hanfu, Hanbok, or like the Japanese kimonos, all of that is Tocharian. It's Persian, essentially. Which like I've also lightly touched on this earlier on Andreas streams. No, you gotta look up Tocharian clothing, my guy. But yeah, the image right there, Tocharian clothing. No, God damn it! Why do you keep on clicking on random images? Go to the actual source, my guy, and then flip through the images. And then let me show you this. Pege Minjok, Namu Wiki.
I wish people dressed like this. We got to bring it back.
I literally do.
So you see that they have that flap and that like the robe, like or the thing that ties the robe together. The type of shoes they wear, it's all colorful, and like then this is all like Asian. But the linguistic connection,
I kind of feel like, look at that face though. Like there's something about him, right? Like he looks like everybody at once.
Right, it's the epigenetics. This is the root race people, like
all of it at once, dude.
R1b haplogroup, my guy. It's
what's happening, man?
The linguistic connection, my God.
Is this like Tartarian Peter Griffin? This is freaking me out. Because he's like the Buddha, and he's also like he looks
like every ethnicity.
I'm every woman. It's pretty good.
Where is that image? There it is.
It's all in me, dude. It's so good. Look at these.
The linguistic. I know you're what's it? An entomology guy, because that's how I met you through David Ewing and whatnot. But yes, you're a freak out about. Well, I don't know if you saw this already, but it's in your Facebook DMs.
Oh man, you made those links that they. This is funny. Every time Gunwoo sends me a link, it won't even take the. It's like this link isn't real, so I have to like hand copy it. Here we go.
Yeah. Scroll down.
Hold on.
No, you don't have to. You don't have. Don't translate it. Just since it becomes nonsense. Go back. Go down.
Okay. Here.
Right. Those clothes. You see that shit? And flip back to the Tartarian stuff. It's the exact same. And only the only people that currently realize or are studying this right now that I've noticed are like Middle Eastern people. Only the Arabs know about this connection, and they're like, oh yeah, we've known this for the longest time. This is we talk about this all the time. Which is why we're fans of Korea.
I feel like we were a global unified civilization, but that like connects
Tartaria, literally.
Dude, it's interesting just because of the Eastern Christians and the Manichaeans, because they're just so wiped out.
Right. But yeah, I mentioned this in the Facebook as well. Like the Manichaean religion is what what the Koreans adopted. It is what we currently call Chundoism, which I've also pulled up in a different stream. But let me pull this up again.
Wow, man, that's messed up. Because it then. In terms of like spiritual ascension, man.
Hinduism and Hanulim. Hold on.
In terms of, oh wow.
Hanulim.
Hinduism.
Hinduism, yeah.
Hinduism. Hundo.
No, it's Chun. That's not a Chun. It's Chun.
Okay.
But there's that, and then like then that's the second link. Hanunim. What we talked about earlier, like a while back, about like how we have our native syncretic to the Abrahamic lore. Yeah, this is Manichaeism.
The sky god of Hinduism and Jungshanism.
Jongsanism. Jongsangyo, that's what they call it. Jungsangyo. But if you look in your Facebook DMs in the group chat or the group chat we just had.
Where do I go? Oh, this thing here? Man.
You go to Facebook and the image in the
this thing?
This thing, yes. Scroll down. Yeah. I had my fucking mind blew when I realized this. This was like my epiphany at like 3 a.m.
Like that's where cuneiform like came from.
No, this is where the Asian script came from. This is our Sumerian link. So like I realized that the Asian script has developed throughout with the mechanical use of pens. Initially, the Sumerians just used wheatgrass, and then we eventually moved on to like brushes, and then eventually pens. The calligraphy, that's how handwriting it changes. David Ewing talks about this. But yeah, but the most important thing is the fact that the Asian script itself derived from this pressure stroke linguistic connection method. That was the original penmanship, and then once you get into pictographic cuneiform, this is what becomes modern Chinese. This is the Catan Jurchen script.
Whoa! I took a Sumerian college class, and it's so crazy how like the slightest different, like how to translate. There's so many differences and where it's placed, and it's pretty technical. Wow, that's amazing, Gunwoo. That's a huge connection right there.
But like it's only like this stuff is only recently becoming like observed and taken seriously throughout, with Middle Eastern people having more internet connection, becoming more global. But like for the longest time academically, if you ever mentioned that that the East Asians had any Middle Eastern link, you have just been laughed at. Even like some Muslims don't even take this. Like a lot of Sunni Muslims don't take this seriously. Like I mentioned that like had a lot of Korean aristocratic customs, whereas wearing aristocratic women, upper class women being required to wear head coverings like a hijab when they go out, and like a lot of the stuff we do, like it's not coming to mind for some reason, but. Yeah, they're all in accordance to like Mosaic like Sharia law. And I mentioned this to Muslims, and like they just laugh at me. But like this is all public information. This can be autodidactically just looked into. This is not just my word. I'm just some dude with an internet connection. Anybody can just look into this.
You look at it as so easy. You're a dot connector, and like what you do is so brilliant, and then you downplay it by like making us all feel so stupid. Of like, you guys, it's all there. Like anyone can do this.
I don't mean it like that. I'm just trying to put it out, saying like, hey, like, because like I don't have the credibility to be saying this stuff, right? I don't like I don't have a doctorate degree. I'm not a historian. I'm just some dude with a high school education, right? But it's just like, and then people don't take me seriously due to that. But there's, my frustration is the fact that other people, if other in higher degrees of education and positions of meritocracy, like not addressing this. Like, why?
I remember like 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know. I think this originally was on Vimeo, and then they put it on YouTube. But like, there was this thing, and there was 2012. Okay, so they had Haji Noordin, and he came from South China or Southwest China, and so he was teaching a lot about the calligraphy of the Chinese and like the different styles and like what they like function as. I don't know if he's like showing here, but like the Arabic influence is like complete, and you can see both directions how there's, really both scripts are coming out of West China, where they have a school that is, a bunch of different religions and a bunch of different kinds of people that are converging. So it makes it possible for them to come up with a way to make more clear. And this is later, obviously. This is coming in probably like the 3rd century BC or something like that. But it's still at a point where you're seeing like that cuneiform idea. Like you can still see like the strokes that are being saved in matter in every respect, and how they make sure to like restore what they can't have in terms of depth. Like they create like a new style of depth just with ink paints, right? And you also remember that movie Hero. I always think of that movie Hero with Jet Li, which they made in China and then they like banned in China. You know what I'm talking about? Like this is crazy. Like Quentin Tarantino brought this movie to the West, but it's all about how the Chinese emperor kills and destroys everyone in his path in order to have just one China. And this dude who tries to save from his culture just one symbol to have assimilated into their language. He's like, I just want to make sure that our culture's symbol for the word hero.
I hope David Ewing is watching this, dude. He keeps telling me that I'm wrong, and like he blocked me on Facebook eventually. But like, my God, there's so much evidence to this. Like, I don't know why he keeps telling me that I'm wrong. I'm literally corroborating a lot of the things he said, like about the Arabic Asian link or whatever, the Tartaria and all that stuff. Like, why doesn't that go further? To East Asia? But he keeps saying that Korea is not old or it's a new civilization, whatever. Like, but no.
Well, I don't know. I think everything to Ewing is a new civilization, and so it's like hard for him to even imagine that there are like remnants of a past civilization that are remembered. But that's the big thing with me is like I disagree with him on that. I think most things do have some sort of you can see it. You can see how a story is turned inside out. Like it'll be really interesting in a few generations when you have what's left of these fantasies and fairy tales that become Disneyfied, and what are the future generations going to think about those stories, and how much of the story is still there, because it will probably be shockingly some amount of the true core, more essential part of that story that's stored, even though all sorts of other things about it are lost that we thought were so important in our generation. They might perpetuate like that important point of moral, right? Because a lot of the time that's what a story does. A story encrypts meaning, and later on you can decrypt that meaning if you can intuit it. And so they do that generationally. So like maybe someone changes who plays the character, but there's still this ritual that's carried out, and then that's the more important aspect of the story, right?
Also, the other reason I mentioned that like I wish David Ewing was watching this is because like there's like a lot of Kufic connections that I've been noticing as well. Another epiphany that I had recently, if you want to check your Facebook DMs again.
Yeah, he doesn't talk a lot about this, and when he shows Kufic, he likes to focus on this kind of Kufic, which is like
right, which is also present in East Asia as well.
Right. But there's like, look at this. I mean,
there's this, but you turn that vertically, it becomes the fucking the Mongol script. But
exactly.
look, but like the DMs that in your Facebook, the endless knot stuff. So yeah, so in Cufic calligraphy, there's a common theme where they put they have like this knot, which you see present all across East Asia. My mom even has one. I think it was a good luck charm or something. But yeah. But this ties back to the Mongol endless knot, which has a Cufic connection to the Arabic knot in their calligraphy. But yeah, just pull it up in you real quick.
Follow the knots.
It's
naughty.
like what's it? I forgot who mentioned it. That like the world is ruled by symbols, not language, whatever. Someone said that shit. And like really just like if
it is not pulled up, that's amazing. I spent the whole time pulling it up and looking at it. I had a great time. I'm sorry you missed out. Here you go.
Yeah, so this is the Mongol endless knot. This is present all around East Asia, right? Tibetan Buddhism as well, and like everywhere.
It looks Celtic.
And the Celts and the Scythians, right? Yeah, you find this
Carter connection, R1b haplogroup, yes. And then go to the Cufic knot. Right there. Go down.
Fine.
Right there. It's right there.
You're not supposed to share this. No one's supposed to know.
This is everywhere in mosques. This is all across like Morocco that I see, like Marrakesh specifically. It's out in the open. Yet Muslims, tell me that I'm wrong. Fucking academics tell me I'm wrong. Fucking
no, the Irish are gonna be upset though. You're gonna see
the Irish, the people that actually give a shit about Irish history, no, they have art. The Irish people have one of the largest concentrations of R1b in their haplogroup, rated at 92%, which is why the whole people in Tartaria talking about Ogygia and whatever, but they're all talking about Phoenicians and whatever. But it's actually they're Phrygian. They have a Phrygian lineage, which is why they're called Ogygia. It's Ogygia etymology. There's their suffix Aegea. It also follows Phrygia. It's a tributary state. The Phrygians landed also in Netherlands, which is why they're called Frisian, which due to the vowel shift. But this is all evident if you just trace the path of the migration of bagpipes, the history of bagpipes. Bagpipes come from Anatolia.
That looks like alchemical symbols. Whoa.
Bagpipes come from Anatolia, Turkey, right? But who else comes from Anatolia? The Phrygians. These are the redhead R1b haplogroup people with green eyes that migrated to Europe. But they also migrated east. These people we call Tartarians, or the USZ people, or the Terran mummies. The redhead, green-eyed people that went east, they're all documented throughout, Turkmenistan or whatever, Middle Eastern, Central Asian history. Which is why they're trying to disappear the Uyghurs.
And they say those with green eyes have like the highest psychic abilities, right?
I don't know. I don't know about the psychic stuff, to be honest. But yeah, just go down history of bagpipes.
The Anatolians get to claim bagpipes now. I was so convinced that the Africans claimed the bagpipes until recently.
No, it's Anatolian origin. It landed, so it reached Africa. Reached Africa because they comes out the Mediterranean, right? It lands in Atlantis, which is Mauritania. The eye of the fucking. The eye in Mauritania, which people are now calling it Atlantis, which is Atlantis. Atlantis is not some mythical place. It was a port city of Atlantis. Yeah, Atlantis was a port city in Mauritania. It was a Phrygian port city. And this is how bagpipes entered. This is how intellectualism and whatever entered Africa and whatever civilization, fucking monsoon moons and stuff ties to Atlantis because of Phrygians. They come out the Mediterranean, landed in Phrygia, then eventually landed in Azores. There's another structure that's anomalous. People are calling it Viking, but it's actually a Phrygian that are in the Azores, and they eventually go to Ireland. And then they spread off to Scotland, England, and middle sections, and eventually to Netherlands. That's how they stopped becoming known as Frisians. But this is so obvious and apparent, but I don't know why academic anthropologists like don't see this. It's
When I see
basic pattern
star forts,
recognition.
when I see star forts all around the world, I look at it as like Atlantis, like a global unified civilization that like they all had star forts around the world. I look at it as like global Atlantis. But you're saying it's a port?
The Atlantis is not a star fort. It's rings. It's not a star, right? It was a port city.
Well, that's what Plato said. That was just like one account of like something Plato described it as.
There's multiple accounts. Herodotus says this. The Herodotus had a map of Atlantis, and the Richard structure actually lines up. But people largely dismiss Herodotus as some like whatever goofy. I don't know why, but there's multiple corroborating accounts, even from Turkey, in the Middle East as well, that points to the description of Atlantis being just a Phrygian port city. But we have to also remember, like, keep in mind what the world looked like after the flood, right? The TNO maps that we see throughout history. People is like, oh, this is some bullshit, whatever. People did the best they can, or whatever. But really, it's like the entire world was covered in water at one point, and the water was receding, and that's how humanity can like live and whatnot. But like we have to consider what geography looked like as the water receded, right? So over time, and mash the descriptions of history according to the water levels. And if that's the case, Atlantis would have been an island surrounded by water. If you're considering elevation. Which corroborates that the location of Atlantis being beyond the Pillars of Hercules. The Pillars of Hercules was Gibraltar, which I forgot where I read this from, but like it was known throughout Greek mythology that like Hercules split Gibraltar in Spain, Africa apart by human strength or whatever, and then that's what they call the Pillars of Hercules. And right beyond it is Mauritania. And then by that time, Mauritania would have been underwater. And then, it's like after whatever seismic event happened, they get swept under and like a braid, whatever. If you look at the entire Sahara Desert, it's all ocean sand. They were buried underwater at one point. Yeah. And people largely dismiss this. Graham Hancock and
I feel like there was a massive flood, and then it was like regional, like where with certain geysers and then pyramids and star forts. They govern a lot of water, and if something overtook that and figured out how to access that and control that it was like regional areas creating certain mud floods. Yeah, like after Great Flood and probably before.
Exactly. And like so, yeah, people don't account. So like they say it's gradualism or catastrophism. There's always like I don't know why everybody's theories has to be like dichotomous or not dichotomous or like split apart. They don't account for both things. It always has to be one or the other. It's always to be absolute. It's like no, everything has happened, everything at once.
Yeah, but what I realize is, guess what? Nobody effing knows. Nobody knows. And so if somebody comes out and says things like for sure and they're not able to be open whatsoever is kind of a red flag, You
don't know, but we're also very close.
Wow, Gunwoo, that was amazing.
Wow. Why is it always so cold in March? What they manipulating the weather, cause the Air Force retire heart. And they dishing out experimental stick. And now you got that Turkey, Syria earthquake. Right where Obama wanted to put his pipeline. Nothing ever happening. Cause he toppled everybody in the Arab Spring. Yeah, he toppled everybody but Syria. And now we're seeing the consequences of that. Since HARP is retired, they are making earthquakes with new weapon systems or HARP with different names. Yeah, it's all the same. Oh yeah, they're trying to force some fake loans into Iraq and Syria. Yeah, whoa. Ladies call them gun. Wow.
That's one of my favorites, I think. Well, I like that. I think Pangea is interesting. The expanding continent theory, I think the idea that it takes a lot of time is the thing that makes it hard for people. They're saying, oh, Years. We need a new term better than years to just talk about cataclysmic changes and just like the amount of changes we expect to happen in years, sort of like light years or something. Like we just need like a more abstract term than a year, because 150 million years, 225 million years seems a little further than I'm thinking, in like scores of 10 probably. But that is like pretty close to the map, right? There it is. Here's
Right,
Europe,
right.
Africa. Africa
Just
is
look up
amazing.
the world according to Herodotus, and then they have the location there's a question mark right next to Atlantis, but they put it right next to the Rishon structure.
Here's Eurasia or
And it looks
Eurabia.
like a brain. It literally looks like a brain.
It
No,
totally
hold
does.
on. Look. If I can Google the world according to Herodotus.
Italy was the hypothalamus, ladies and gentlemen.
Doing pretty good. That's, I think, their point. That's what you got a point there. Yeah. Kind of like a skull of a rodent as well. So
They put a question mark right next to like where Atlantis is supposed to be, and it's the Rishon structure right there. We're close to. And the reason why it looks like the TNO maps, right? The world looks like a circle initially, right? And it's a split between a T. This is what essentially it is, right? But it was the water levels, the elevation in this area is high as hell. It looks like a circle because due to like the mountain range and everything as we see. But it's just the elevation makes it a circle. But as the water recedes, we have other continents. But the TNO maps are, I guess, to an extent accurate of what the genuinely world looked like pretty much right after the flood. And also, like, this is very similar to what the Rupus Nigra maps look like as well.
yeah, it's right in this northwest corner of Mauritania, which this is Africa, right? So they're saying this northwest corner.
And all of that's under the ocean is where the Sahara ocean sand is. Is where the Sahara desert is. And like, why is it covered in sand? Because it's all ocean sand. And like Grant Hancock talks about it, like Russell, that archaeology guy that comes out on Joe Rogan, a Russell guy, he talks about all this stuff, but they never hit the mark because they're always like, I don't know, they distracted with side shit. They always go with the geological timeline. They never abandon that. They still purport the out of Africa theory. They still purport that the world is millions of thousands or whatever years old. It's like, no, all that stuff breaks apart if you look at the radiocarbon dating. The science committees all throughout Switzerland and like Europe have to constantly reaffirm, do tests, trying to convince people, hey, the radiocarbon dating is as accurate, it's reliable, but it's not. They have like. At most, they have a half-life of 5,000 years. Everything past that, it becomes volatile, so you can't accurately measure anything past 5,000 years.
I feel like every time I hear him say 12,500 years ago, it makes me just want to throw something and walk away. I'm like allergic to it.
It's honestly a litmus test at this point to like know who knows what they're talking about, who doesn't. If they mention like, oh, this mammoth we found in Alaska is fucking 60,000 years ago, like, no, it's not. If it was, it would have been more decayed. The permafrost isn't that strong. But the whole reason why we're finding mammoths throughout all over across Siberia is because of the Israelite migrations. We know from Plato's account that the Scythians, the fucking Tartarians, domesticated mammoths, and they traversed like all across Siberia through the Scytho-Siberia world, as we call it, into Alaska. And this is all evident, this geological evidence, and like we're finding literally petrified mammoths. And yet somehow all this stuff is a myth.
We need a term for once in a blue moon instead of years to describe like every like 30 or 40 blue moons, or it only takes so many blue moons.
We just had a blue moon in August. What did it say about blue moons and volcanic eruptions?
Always. Volcanic eruptions or fires release particles in the atmosphere of just the right size to preferentially scatter red light. This is generally an uncommon occurrence, more in accord with the original meaning of the phrase once in a blue moon.
Whoa. The red makes the blue?
Probably absorbs that frequency of light.
What do you guys think about the total solar eclipse?
Oh yeah, isn't that happening over DC?
I just know during the around the same month time period of the total solar eclipse, they're sacrificing the red heifer. So there's a lot of
and the
weird
cicadas, right? The cicada that are they haven't like
it's cicada
like 200.
season.
Yeah, we might see the Moses
over
plague
200
coming out
years.
again. That'd be hilarious to watch.
Wow.
Literally the Moses plague happening because of this whole
Well, the
eclipse.
plague with the comet coming in, because you know that's gonna come in like June 2nd, I think, is when it gets its closest. And in history with the comets and plagues and death of a
Honestly,
king or I predict the death of a king or a royal.
Dude, yeah. I just brought this together. So like, you know how like the Palestine-Israel wars heightening up and like what this is all happening during that time, right? Last time a plague that happened in the world, especially Kemet, Palestine was former Kemet, right? As we talked about with Dietrich, I forgot his first name. Yeah, Palestine being part Kemet. Last time we had a plague that involved cicadas or locusts was when Moses was ordering the Israelites to go free. Let my people go. And then this is essentially we're going through that again, right? With the Palestinians.
So it's getting close. Like they say it could kind of like photobomb the comet, could kind of like photobomb the eclipse. But yeah, June 2nd is when it gets its closest, and that's the first time in 71 years. But it makes you think of panspermia and like cosmic bacteria. Like, what are comets, anyways? You know, there's all these plagues that break out. You know, that after.
No, I was mostly like mentioning how like the parallels in history, right? How like the liberation of Israelites was then the last time Kemet had a plague of locusts, and this is happening again when people are demanding that Palestinians go free.
Right.
On the region of Kemet. You see how this is coming together?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And with like Pluto going into Aquarius, I mean, that is a revolution. That is rebelling, like globally. It's like I've had enough, and all kinds of systems in place breaking and shattering.
Christianity is India's third largest religion.
Oh, wait.
I want to do a deep dive on Coptic Christianity.
Yeah.
Where like Coptic Egyptians.
there's a lot of information about that already, but people need to like are completely dismissing the Greco-Buddhism connection.
Wow, the Coptic diaspora map. It's interesting.
Now, how I mentioned Yunnan in the last stream, the opening up the possibility that Alexander the Great might have gone as far as China. People are largely when the British took over the Middle East and India, they largely wiped out the evidence of, from what I'm seeing, they largely wiped out any evidence of a Christian Indo-Greco kingdom in India and China. But we're seeing remnants of that everywhere, especially with Greco-Buddhism. If you want to click on the link I sent in the private chat, this ties into Indian Christianity. Like, look how they literally have Christian motifs on Buddhist symbols, on Buddhist figures. The hand thing, what's it, when Jesus is this, they have something similar.
Ooh.
But
but so does the Baphomet, Gunwoo.
different, but it's like up and down, right? But he's holding out his hand. A lot of Orthodox depictions have Jesus doing this. I don't know what that means, but we're like this.
Well, like mudras, huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? There's some weird connection to that that I'm seeing with Christianity, especially considering that like Christianity, especially the New Testament was written in Greek, right? In Greek had a lot of Indian connections and influences, which is as we're seeing with this stuff. So I'm assuming a lot of this motifs with the mudras actually crossed over because Jesus went to India, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Like there's something to this that's also being buried.
Did you see the depictions of him in that temple? Like he kind of looked Middle Eastern.
What do you
In
mean?
India, they said that Jesus went there, and
Mhm.
like the depictions on that old place,
No,
like
the
he
depictions
was.
of Jesus throughout the Middle East and India is literally just Buddha. Well, it's one of the Buddhas, right? But due to cultural contextualization and compartmentalization, they make him look very Asian and whatnot. But it's just like it's hard to really find out the true identity of Jesus because of so much regional compartmentalization, which is why a lot of academics are getting stumped on a little this and that. They're trying to I don't know why people are so many in the academic field are so absolutist. They keep accrediting one people to one thing. So this has to be absolute. It's not the Scythians, the Occitanians, or whatever. It's like, but like no, but like as we can observe today in real life right now, there's everything's so cosmopolitan and mixed. Imagine a Turkic confederation that was big as Asia. Like everything is going to be mixed.
That's like Genghis Khan. You know, people say he had red hair and blue eyes, but from what I understand, he had blonde hair and blue eyes, and he would dye it red, but that he was blonde. And then he also would wear like an owl saved his life, and then that's why he was a white owl, and that's why his warriors would wear. After that happened, they would put an owl feather in their hair and rock it because of that.
I have a hard like so I try to look into Genghis Khan as much as possible, but like I largely find myself like dismissing it.
Do you know what
Mainly
I
because like
love that he said? I love that he said if you want to destroy civilization, an entire civilization, you just give them convenience and alcohol and they'll destroy themselves.
that is very true. But like
You don't think he existed?
no, it's not that. It's just like there's so much just like any like ruthless figure in history, like Hitler or whatever. Like they it's been everything about him has been so mythologized. Mythologized. Is that the right word?
Mythological?
Like, I don't know. They just like they turn it to like they hyperbolize everything he's done, and there's too much misinformation about him for me to like. He's turned into Shakespeare essentially, right?
Right.
So like the thing is, a lot of people say, the world at large is under the impression it's like, hey, the Finnish people have Genghis Khan DNA because Genghis Khan went around having sex with all these people, whatever. But that's not, first of all, humanly possible.
How come that's the
And
only thing that if you went around and asked like hundreds of people what they know about Genghis Khan, they'd probably say that. That's like
right, it's
all
like,
they
oh,
know
I'm related
about
to
him.
Genghis Khan. It's like it's all bullshit. They're trying to cover up for the haplogroup N DNA, the YMT DNA, that accounts for Tartaria's existence. Oh, the Turkic blood that has unified, that has spread across the entirety of Asia, that gives us the legitimacy we need, the genealogical legitimacy for the existence of Tartaria and its borders. Haplogroup N is like they're saying, oh, it's just Genghis Khan, when in reality, I mentioned this earlier in the previous streams. Like, first off, like let's say like if we were to go by the narrative of what people accept about Genghis Khan today, of he had this ruthless golden horde of millions of people that have conquered all of Asia and half of Europe to an extent. First off, uh, it, if that was the case, at Genghis Khan's peak Mongol borders, what would that nation would be called? What would that empire would be? That would be Tartaria. So that checks out. That's literally
Like,
like
didn't Marco Polo literally say he was a Scythian and that he changed that Genghis Khan changed it to Tartaria?
right, yeah. This is all written down. They're like, yeah. But I'm saying people are largely in denial that Tartaria ever existed. They're calling this pseudo history, but yet they accept the fact that Genghis Khan ruled all of Asia. And if he did rule all of Asia, what would that empire be called? Tartaria, right? It's literally common sense. And not only that, so like let's go further. Mongolia currently has a modern population of only 2 million people. This is a point I brought up last stream as well. A modern population of 2 million people. Yeah, sure. There's been a lot of genocides and the Bolshevik intervention and all that stuff, right? But still, only have a modern population of 2 million. So that was the case at their peak population currently today. There was a 2 million. Where did they get the people to conscript into a golden massive horde? right? Where did the hussars come from? Where did the Polish? Why are there Hungarians calling themselves Magyars and there are once Hunnic people? Like, right?
You should shout this like metal, like style, Gunwoo. Shout, scream it.
I don't understand why you keep doing what is Real quick, if you want to cure cancer, look into celluloid peptide therapy.
Say that again, Gunwoo.
If you want to cure cancer, look into celluloid peptide therapy. I wanted to mention this in the last stream, but I was like, I didn't get to it. But yeah, I somehow managed to contact or get into contact with who has Jeff Bezos on speed dial. She told me all this shit about like being in a secret esoteric economic war against Elon Musk because it's like because right now the Silicon Valley political sphere is transhumanism versus conservatism and stuff like that. And like her whole thing was creating a drug that makes you live forever. And they've essentially achieved this already. It just hasn't entered FDA market, whatever. But this was initially figured out by Stanislav Brzezinski. Stanislav Brzezinski was a man, I believe in the 70s or whatever, that cured cancer through peptide therapy. Realized people that had cancer lacked peptides and whatnot. This ties into the whole Candida stuff and whatnot. But yeah, he cured so many people. There's testimonies everywhere, and then eventually the feds caught up to him. The FDA tried to shut him down because obviously he's curing cancer. But then he went through like 3 trials and he won every one of them. All the testimonies that came forward, all the people that says like, hey, he literally cured me of cancer, and yeah, he went through it. Now he's able to practice today. So ever since then, pharma people have been hopping onto peptide therapy and eventually figured out celluloid peptide therapy, which is now the life extension, like it makes you like quote unquote live forever, reverses aging. They've succeeded this in mice and the Netherlands. And now they're turning this to a drug and producing in Wuhan as well. Fauci knows about this. Jeff Bezos knows about this. Every rich person knows about this. Right? But that's the 4th industrial revolution tech that's going to be pushed out eventually. What's happening now? What's going to be happening soon eventually is people like the lower class and whatever under the elites are going to be given like generic drugs. The shit doesn't work. The reason why they give people the COVID vaccine is to turn people's lives into health into a subscription-based service. They're intentionally poisoning people and like whatever, essentially giving them the incentive to seek these life extension drugs. Right. So, but then we're going to be given like what's going to be available to the consumer market is going to be like dog shit. But the rich people are going to be seeking what they're really going to be going forward is celluloid peptide therapy. And oh god, I'll bring up the drug names actually to let you know. So
it's on the market now, or it
it's only being sold to rich people. But I'll show you. Give me a sec. I got white papers and everything. Peptide. So this is the Dutch article. Hold on. You're right. Yeah. So the people under the elites are going to be given metformin, and stuff like that, generic shit that doesn't really work. But
metformin's like not good for you.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's you're the consumer at large, the quote unquote goyim are going to be given dog shit. Um,
I thought they call white people goyim.
They call
Is that
anybody
is it?
that's non-Jew goyim,
Oh,
but
okay.
so the drug that that I was talking about, the only rich people get to access, is called FOXO4 DRI. I hope I don't get killed for this, but I'm pulling up links in the private chat right now. I hope Andreas. But yeah, this is the Brzezinski Clinic.
Sorry, I just had to take a dose of Foxo over here real quick.
They reverse aging in mice.
In mice, quote unquote. Yes, I need this for my horse. I always like to say.
Right now, it's
Micabel S. Inferma. Biolabs. Wow. Look at yourself. Senolytic peptide molecule shown to remove age and junk cells that lie at the fundament of the aging process.
and pull up Stanislav Brzezinski and how he managed to cure cancer through peptide.
So obviously this is not medical advice that we're telling you the Illuminati probably have invented peptide research. But hey, everybody's working on it. So who knows who this is. Still, great title. Foxo4. Foxo forgery. Ooh, it just flows off the tongue, dude.
Yeah, pull up the
Now,
other links I
Foxo
sent.
4.
Pull up the other links I sent.
Sorry, I got excited there.
Stop
Might
scrolling
save
through the same thing over and over.
Well, I gotta bask in it. All right, Brzezinski Clinic. Okay, fine. What? The cancer treatment clinic that's giving people peptide research?
Yeah. He was the guy that broke through with peptide therapy, and then whatever that managed to find out it cures cancer, and then people. But yeah, rapamycin, also another one that's been confirmed to increase mammalian longevity.
Popular.
Which we're gonna be given metformin and rapamycin, the consumer market at large. Those are the generic whatever being given, but the people that actually wants to live longer, the reptilian motherfuckers, are gonna be taking Fox DRI.
Nice. All right. So yeah. Oh, this video's gonna be in trouble for
And
just
I
sharing
tell
that.
people this, and then people either get scared of the world, they either hate the world more, or like they becoming crazy or schizophrenic. It's like this is literally white paper WEF stuff. Like this is Netherlands. Like come on, like I'm not making this shut up. It's just out there. Just don't stop being scared. Like fuck.
Well, thank you, Gunwoo, and I'm sure many can benefit.
Right. It's just like the human liberation comes at the cost of knowledge, right? Like it's just ignorance is what's constantly breeding the cycle of suffering. And if people just knew stuff like this existed, hey, we can probably get rid of
I've
cancer
noticed
one
that
day.
too. People block like their biggest healings. And another thing is like sermon is it's been around for a long time, but it can reverse like certain things from being inoculated, like autism. It's amazing like how many cases it's reversed, which it's become harder to find the research results from that. But you have to get it from a doctor and an IV, but I think they just approved it in like 2022 or last year. But I feel like that's for people that got, that thing, that that inoculation or whatever. I would feel like that'd be your best bet. That's the greatest solution I know of that could be a solution is the sermon. SURAMIN.
Good to know.
Well, Gunwoo, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Like,
Not a problem.
Is this right, Sermon?
yeah, that's it.
So this cures autism?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Dude, it's astounding, you guys. When years ago,
Can't say it on YouTube. Remember that. That's probably not good for you, and it's gonna, you should get vaccinated. All right, keep going.
yeah, it's reversed a lot. Like, and it can help.
I know you can just so a lot of autism is majority of the cases of autism is directly correlated to heavy metal exposure.
Right.
Like we see with timer saw in vaccines or
For sure,
mercury.
not allowed to say that on YouTube, and we'll probably get in trouble for that. But so it's just his opinion that he'd heard that one time, and he doesn't believe it himself. He's like, "Oh, that's what conspiracy theorists believe." I think.
But hey,
they've been really uptight about medical stuff.
Personal exposure to heavy metals myself, being in the Air Force and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah. So like I find it like personally, I find it like drinking distilled water. I have been
told
to roll
this like a propaganda clip as we exit this to like.
I forgot who I heard this from, but like distilled water, largely flushes out heavy metals accumulation in the body, because like so. A lot of people don't understand that like heavy metals don't appear in the blood until it's too late, until the accumulation is too much to where it appears in the blood. So like if you don't know you're being poisoned until like it's
Alzheimer's and dementia is like a result of that, and like mercury fillings, and a lot of high aluminum.
Because like then when you look into all that stuff, like you realize aluminum is in everything, like from food processing,
deodorant,
right? Just everything. And it's like holy shit. But like, I found out that like just detoxing with just distilled water alone reduces autism symptoms.
Yeah, for him.
Right.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
It's okay. I don't have that many followers on my channel, but Andreas is like,
I don't even have a channel.
In such a way that we can still tell them what we're saying without getting the show deleted because of some like pharmaceutical company. That sucks. I don't know what to do about that. Oh wow.
But hey, I'm literally in contact. Well, I used to be in contact with pharma billionaires, so take it for what you will.
Here, you know what I'll do? I'll like play the song. We'll show Julia's link, and then you can continue to talk about all.
I was literally in a discussion talking about transhumanism, and all this, and then somehow I got connected. Like then someone that liked my opinions and what I've been saying took me to a side discussion, DM'd me, and then somehow I'm connected to a farmer. And I was talking to a farmer billionaire that told me all of this, essentially, a majority of what I just said.
And
wow, why is it always so cold in March? What they manipulating the weather because the Air Force retire heart. In addition,
ever wondered about the safety of vaccines? Are you skeptical, perhaps even warned against it? Allow us to flip the narrative and guide you through the reassuring world of vaccination with our irresistible propaganda. Indulge in the ultimate fusion of safety and progress with our vaccines. Discover the thrill of making health decisions as sexy as they are responsible. Our sultry and secularly biased experts promise a journey filled with safety, fun, and social acceptance. Zero vaccine shaming here. Unleash your passion for protection and let the chemistry of care guide you to the perfect vaccine match. No side effects, no fuss, because in this intricate world, every illness you may have acquired is better explained by life's complexities than casting shadows on the wonder of vaccination. Don't miss out on the hottest decision you can make. Ask your doctor which vaccine